All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. It is 8:01, and we got a lot to dig into tonight. This is the Men and Divorce panel part two. And like always, I want to thank Stream Machine Atlanta, or Stream Machine ATL, for streaming simultaneously on Facebook and Instagram tonight. So thank you, Stream Machine Atlanta. If you have any streaming audio visual needs, contact Stream Machine Atlanta. That's their handle. I'm sorry, ATL. That's their handle on Instagram and Facebook. So I'll shoot their information over in the comments below. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off. So if you did not tune into part one of Men and Divorce, you missed it. It was amazing. I'm still getting feedback from those that have tuned in, and just really, it was an insightful experience to understand what men go through when they go through divorce. A lot of the perspective that I feel we offer in society is from the female's perspective, but men need healing too, right? Men go through just as much challenges and pain and all of that as we do as women. And, you know, it was my goal to create a platform to educate all of us on what divorce feels like from a man's perspective so we can all heal together. And so I am Chidima Anusiam, also known as Author Chi. I'll be your host for tonight. I'm a best-selling author, transformational speaker, and life coach. Again, my passion is to positively change perspective, heal lives, and inspire hearts. So that's what the Chi means, CHI, change, heal, and inspire. So again, the reason why I'm doing this panel is because, you know, I have been, you know, fortunate enough, and I would say the last 2 years, I've been meeting a lot of men that have been divorced. And I really feel like it was the Lord leading them in my path. And I started noticing patterns in some of those men of, you know, still having some hurt and some pain there, and them replaying those pains and their hurts in their recent relationships. And the Lord really challenged me and said, what are you going to do about it? Being that you see these patterns, like, and I really didn't think it was anything I could do because I'm a female. I don't really understand that struggle from a male's perspective. But I was led to create a panel for men, by men, for men, right? So the men on the panel will be educating the men that are viewing on how to go through the process of healing from a divorce, how to live that joyful life, how to deal with some of those challenges that they're going to face. But funny enough, I feel like this is not just for men. I feel like this is for women too. And I've had a lot of women viewers the last go round that really got a lot from it. So stay tuned. So today's panel is about co-parenting. Yeah. Baby mama drama, baby daddy drama. I don't know what you want to call it, but there's sometimes some drama with co-parenting, and sometimes there's not. So we want to dig into that and how do you successfully co-parent after divorce. And so I'm going to actually introduce our first panelist, Philip Turner. So Philip, do you mind joining me on the panel? Hey,
Hello
how are
there,
you?
Chidima.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. What's that behind you? Is that a?
That is a telescope.
That's pretty cool. How big is
it?
that?
Isn't it?
That's pretty cool. I like that. Do you use that often or?
Pretty much never. It just sits there and looks really cool.
Oh, it's just okay. So it's like a paperweight now. Just
it's like a paperweight. The other night I thought it was. I came in. I walked in the room and I thought it was a person. It was dark and I thought it was a person standing there in the corner. I thought it was my girlfriend's daughter. And it just scared me. It scared me so bad.
What'd you do?
What?
I said, what did you do? Did you like uppercut it or like get in the head?
I just like roundhouse kick it. Heart rate shot up and took a long time to fall back asleep and go to sleep.
That's hilarious. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like that. So anyway, let me introduce you, Philip, because I can get carried away. I'm getting distracted now. So Philip is originally from Portland, but you now reside in Sarasota, Florida. I'm so jealous. I wish I was there right now. You're also a men divorce coach and the owner of Level Up Mentoring. So you've been doing that for 1.5 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But you have also been through a divorce, and you've kind of developed that program as a way to sort of give back from your learnings. And so I'm really excited to hear more about Level Up. You're also a girl dad. Woohoo!
Girl
Hashtag
dad.
girl
Yep.
dad.
I've got a 6-year-old. She's super cute and
Aw.
super sassy. She's a sass hole, as I like to say.
Oh, Lord. Now we got to make this a rated R situation. Now I'm just joking. Oh, so how old is she?
She's 6.
She's 6. Oh, my
She's 6.
daughter.
Started first grade yesterday, and yeah, I'm
How's that going?
good. I tried to call her before we got on. I didn't have a chance to talk to her, but she's in Montana with her mother, and I live here in Sarasota, so we typically FaceTime every day.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's been that's been what we do since our separation.
Yeah.
My ex moved far, hundreds of miles away when we separated. So FaceTiming every day was at least a way that I was able to connect with my daughter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was able to see her about every month and a half to 2 months or so, for a long weekend every now and then. And so I got it started to become tough, only getting to see your child every now and then. So I wanted to make some changes and start working for myself and having more time and freedom to be able to spend with her. But that was, that's just part of the story of, why I started coaching and helping other men to do the same. So they're able to find more time with their kids as well.
I love that. Oh, I love that. So, yeah, so let's just kick it off then. I mean, you kind of got into, your journey. Just tell me a little bit more about that, your story, from kind of like your divorce and now you being a divorce coach.
Yeah. So with my divorce, it was not easy, for me when obviously when my daughter is moved, a long distance away from me. It was something that I allowed. I didn't, it's not like she was completely stripped from me and taken against my will and against her will. It was something that I did allow. I had a fear that, if I didn't let my ex go back, back home to her family, that it was gonna turn into more resentment towards me, and then in turn we were going to fight more and argue more, and then it's just going to create an unhealthy relationship between us and thus hurt my daughter. And so it was a really, really, really challenging decision for me to make, to let that happen. And sometimes I'm not totally sure if it was the right decision, but with the way my life's turning out now and the amazing bond that my daughter and I have together, it actually is turning out to be a really, really incredible life and lifestyle for both of us. When I started healing and started becoming much more happy and much more resilient, and just living my life and enjoying everything that I was doing, and expressing gratitude for everything that I did have, started focusing on things that I did want, everything else inside just started shining through. And I had other friends who started going through divorces and having, wives that were cheating on them, and, dads who were coming to me with custody issues, like, Philip, how do you do it? Like, what do you do to stay so resilient and stay so strong? Because, I want that. Like, I want to be able to be happy. I want to be able to have a good relationship with my ex, and make sure that my kids are going to be okay. And so I just started helping. I just started helping my friends, and more people started coming to me, and I'm like, what, I want to step this up. And it's something that really, really lit me up, when I was able to offer perspective, or offer guidance, or offer support to these guys. And there's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm, thank you so much for all your help and everything you did. And it just started taking off from there.
I love that. And so I want to dig into the emotions of this because, there's a perception out there that men are, and that was one of my myths. I put my myths out there that men are okay with their children being with the mother most of the time. And that's just their time where they just get to do man stuff and hang out with their guys and all that kind of. But what does it really feel like when you can't see your child as often as you like to? How does that feel?
So,
Cope with that.
well, for me and for a lot of guys that I know, when we as men are providers and protectors, and so we find a lot of purpose when it comes to our children and our families, being providers and protectors for them. So when when our family starts to deteriorate or fall apart, or our kids aren't with us anymore, and our wives are gone, all that family, all that purpose is kind of gone with them. So so then so then we start feeling like we're just kind of cash cows for our ex, or we turn into second class citizens because a lot of fathers' rights are basically non-existent in a lot of cases. And then we kind of become part-time babysitters, and that sense of purpose is gone. And it's really, really devastating for a lot of men, because we find happiness and peace in our purpose. And if we don't have it, then we don't have any happiness or peace.
Wow. I had to put myself in the man's shoes, in that if I couldn't see my daughter, if someone took my daughter away, miles and miles away, I don't even know how I would be functioning right now. Like, that is just the worst thing you can do. And I guess the perception is like, well, that's just because you're a mother, that men don't really, they don't have that, what you call that, that
Like
nurturing type bond with their child. Is that true?
It's not. It is true that biologically women are typically more nurturing than men are. But like I said, men are more purpose and direction driven. And just because we are purpose and direction driven rather than like nurture and love, nurturing and loving, doesn't mean that bond, the bond that we have with our kids is any less or any less important. Because the purpose and direction that we have is for our families and for our children once we become fathers.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, what was like when your daughter was away, all those many miles away? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did you cope with that? Like, what was that thing that you would do, or things you would do to cope with, that separation?
Well, first, the first things were really unhealthy, and so it goes into drinking and partying and stuff like that. And then after a while, you start to become numb, and then you mistake the numbness for feeling better, and then you mistake the feeling better for healing, and then end up making the same mistakes over and over again.
Wait, I gotta stop you there. You mistake the numbness for healing, or the feeling better for healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's deep. I had to stop right there, y'all. Y'all didn't hear that? I had to say it again. Okay, go ahead, Philip.
Oh, thank you. So then I started doing more healthy things. I started running, and then I started doing yoga. And in yoga, I found a lot of value in being present. And then, it's another form of meditation for me. And so with the presence and being self-aware, I was finding a lot of peace. And then I was realizing how amazing I really have it, and how great my life really is, because I do have a very, very incredible life. So expressing gratitude actively in every area of my life. I'm like, I'm grateful for my next breath. I'm grateful for my amazing bed, and I'm grateful for my friends, my family. And once you start seeing all the abundance that's around you, you actually start attracting a lot more incredible things. So it started with self-awareness, and it started with gratitude.
I like that. I like that. Self awareness and gratitude. So, you hear this, guys out there. those are some things that you can do to help with the healing process, especially when it comes to co-parenting and not being able to be with your children. I mean, there's different types of activities, like you said, being active with yoga and that sort of thing that can help. So thank you for sharing that, Philip. And I have one more question before we jump over to Steve. And I can't choose which question I want to ask you because it's just so interesting talking to you. I just can't seem to choose which one. But we were talking earlier, and I thought what you said was so profound. I said, you got to say this on the air because I share your sentiments. Like I share this point of view about absentee fathers and how fathers are being pulled away from the household. Like and the impact that's having on this generation. And so when there is a situation where maybe the ex-wife or is not allowing the father to be in that child's life, I want to create some perspective for that woman that may be doing that. And can you share with me what impact that makes on the child and why, or in society as a whole?
Yeah. So when it comes to taking children away from their fathers, the data that is available to us is that from what I can see and everything that I've looked at, society as a whole is worse off without their fathers. Our kids are worse off without their fathers. So almost everything that our society faces when it comes to teenage pregnancy, when it comes to obesity, when it comes to substance abuse and alcohol abuse, when it comes to poverty, when it comes to crime, education, all of these things are either caused by or deeply worsened by father absence or single parent homes in general. It doesn't mean that single mothers or single fathers aren't going to do an amazing job raising their children, but with the data that's available, their chances of succeeding in every single area are dwindled, and the society does pay the price for it.
I agree with that. I think that's very important. And I know some women that, kind of use the child as like a pawn in the whole situation to take their child away from the father because they're angry or something like that. And as a divorcee myself, I was always against that. I don't care if I can't stand the sight of you. Mm-hmm. Your child needs you. Like, it's not even about me at this point. You're part of our identity. And just to remind women out there that as much as you probably hate this man, that child is just as much as him as that child is of you. And robbing them of their identity is never a good thing. As long as he's not dangerous or harming the child, allowing the father to be present will make a world of a difference in your child's life. It's less explanation that you have to do. Like, it really does go a long way. So I think, Philip, that was awesome. Like, thank you for sharing that. And, I'm going to hop over to Steve. I'm going to have you come back for the panel group discussion. But thank you for your input.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. So, hey, Steve.
How are you doing, Chidima? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, yes. So I got to tell people about this, why I have Steve back today. So I'm messing with Steve today. So the last panel, Steve was a panelist on our part one. And, after the show, I'm getting phone calls. And I'm like, okay, they're going to tell me how amazing I did, how cute I was, that kind of thing. And they were like, you did good, but who is that Steve guy? Everybody wanted to know who Steve was. And I'm like,
thank you.
He stole the show. So I called Steve back and I said, listen, you obviously added so much value, because I think you do an amazing job at what you do. I have to have you back. And so welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna stop talking. How's Vermont? Are the leaves still turning, or do you have like 10 feet of snow?
Yeah, they're turning already. It's crazy. It's about 50 degrees outside right now.
What?
Yeah.
I was like, it's been 3 weeks. I'm sure it's snowing by now.
Come on now.
So I'm gonna do a quick introduction, Steve, for those that didn't join the first panel to get to know you a little bit better. So Steve is from Stowe, Vermont. You are a certified divorce coach. You've been doing that for about 3 years, but you also do financial advising as well. You are a boy dad. You have 3 boys, right?
Correct.
All their names start with a G. I can't remember what they are, but I know it started with a G. Am I right? Or is it J?
Yep, Gavin, Grant, and Grady.
Okay. And yeah, so you've been helping coaching men as far as healing from divorce as well. And so you shared a lot about that on our last panel. So if you didn't watch Steve's section, go back and rewatch it. But I wanted to, maybe have this as more of a continuation from what we talked about the last time. So
Hmm.
with that being said, um, I guess I'll kick it off with like, so you heard Philip talking about his, you know, experience with co-parenting. What's kind of been your journey through co-parenting?
Well, I mean, first off, Philip is right on point. He, the self-care, it's kind of like that flight attendant that's coming in and says, when the oxygen mask drops from the ceiling, take a breath first before you give it to your kid. You're much better off uh, serving yourself the proper way so you can show up for your kid. And I commend Philip for showing up with a commitment to make the most of his relationship that he has with his daughter that's miles away. And and co-parenting's tough. It's face it, if we were able to work things out as a couple, most likely we wouldn't be divorced. So oftentimes the divorce is there because we have different core beliefs, and sometimes those beliefs extend into the way kids could be raised. And if the parents cannot come together on proper structure for their kids, there's a chance that the kids can either manipulate you. There's a chance that the kids don't experience consistency when they flow from one household to another. And safety and security is very important for kids. And then I've seen multiple instances where uh, not only wives but husbands. I'll speak more to wives because I coach only men. uh, there are instances where there's parentification, where the ex-spouse is involving, let's say, an older child in the decisions for discipline for the younger kids. That confuses the structure. There are instances where there's gatekeeping. For example, I've had situations where um, a child was in a car accident and the father wasn't notified, so he could go to the hospital and check on his child. So that, it positions the mother to be there as a supportive person during a tough time. I've had parent alienation, where the family members, grandparents, parents, whoever it may be, are wedging themselves in and trying to alienate the child from the parents. There's all sorts of tactics that come through. And one of the things that you had mentioned, and I want to touch on, is fathers have a legal right to be a father at least 50% of the time. And it's hard enough as a man when you're stepping away from an engagement with your kids where you were 100% of the time father, and you have to relegate yourself down to 26 weeks a month or 26 weeks a year or less. And you have a legal right to do it. And the problem that happens is most divorce agreements have areas that are black and white, such as custody, um, you know, transitions, custody schedules, alimony, child support. It's black and white. It's easy to file motions to get the court to adjust that. But then there's these areas around co-parenting that are gray, and the courts don't oftentimes step up and support that. They don't want that type of thing coming back into the courtroom, but they do provide resources such as co-parenting coordinators that can sit with both parents and help them reach agreements to drive into the issues that are affecting their ability to co-parent. So, if you're a father and you're feeling like you're being driven away, don't feel like you're helpless. And men specifically, when we're married, we carry these responsibilities, and more often than not, I find men that are carrying the more so the financial responsibility. They have the custody slighted away from their favor. They have career demands, and when you divorce, all those responsibilities continue. The only thing that doesn't happen in your marriage is you're not intimate anymore, but your marriage and all these other facets are continuing. And so men, I think, are fallen victim to carrying these greater burdens, and they relegate themselves away from the time that's necessary for them to be with their kids.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And what you were sharing made me think about how can you be impactful as a father long distance? Is there a
Mhm.
way to still create that, I guess, sense of authority, um, influence, all of that? Like, is that possible to do? And if so, how would one do that?
Right. I think Philip's doing it. I think when you have love in your heart for your kids, that comes through in multiple interactions, the way you communicate. It's just not the words you say. There's lots of connectivity there. So when one of the most important things to do, and I try to coach my men to have balance in their lives, and it's through the 5 F's that I talk about. But when you can have more balance in your life and you can handle the emotional uncertainty, you can handle the financial strain, you can handle and put yourself in positions to be more healthy, that that physiology will drive your psychology, right? When you invest in yourself and you invest in your own health, the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you're thankful, like Philip said, with gratitude, it will help your psychology. So when your kid comes with you, you are in a position to present your best self for that child. And think about the different roles that you play in your life and what are your standards. Do you know what your standards are in your fatherly role? Do you
Hmm.
know what your standards are with your career? Do you know what your standards are with your financial responsibility? Once you know what those standards are, you can create that framework and that boundary to um, create that engagement. And your relationship with your child is your unique relationship. You define it, and your child defines it, and that's it.
No, I think that's awesome. That the thing that's awesome. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to comment on, taking, being mindful of yourself and how if you're not okay, you can't create an environment where everybody around you is okay. And I had to learn that because as a single mom, like it took me a while to give myself permission to do the things I enjoyed because I thought my number one responsibility was to be a parent. And so
Hmm.
I neglected everything, my friends, my image, like everything. And I realized that she's happier when I'm happier. So I'm going out this weekend and I'm gonna have a drink,
Hmm.
and it was just this like epiphany, like, oh my God, like I'm actually like feeling like I have more of a balanced life. So tell me about, because you mentioned the last time about hiking and how men need to be active to heal and go through that process. And we didn't get a chance to talk about that. So can you share more with me about kind of your healing process when it came to being active?
Yeah, well, when I was going through my divorce, and right before I reached my divorce, I had 2 weeks before my final divorce case, and I took um, hikes every day for that 2 week period, and I would just go out with a selfie stick and my camera, and I would journal verbally into my phone just to release it. And what I found is that when I'm out moving, I'm connecting more. I get greater clarity. I'm paying attention. So what I decided to do is I envelop recreational activities into the coaching sessions as much as I can. Of course, it's benefit if somebody's face to face with you, but it could be hiking, it could be downhill skiing, it could be kayaking. Uh, we can do those types of things. And I can also provide exercises that you can do on your own to go through these, um, what I call go off and ramble or go off and get lost. Get lost in nature, get by yourself, and allow that clarity to come in. Oftentimes, for example, when I go out and hike by myself, I'll take a journal with me, and and I'm pondering some issue that's bothering me, I'll start hiking and I'll say, why is this here? Why is this situation here? And the information will come. Write it down, sit with it. And then after it becomes clear, like why that situation's here, then ask yourself, what are you meant to learn? And continue on. Let the information come, write it down. And then the third piece, which is really helpful, is go, how can I see this situation differently? And what that does is it challenges you to face the issue and get you out of your ego mind, so you can start to see it a different perspective. And in that challenge is the answer to whatever issue you have. They say lean into the obstacle. The great poet Rumi, who's my favorite, says in one of his verses, the answer to the pain is in the pain. You have to put yourself in a situation where you can be alone or be guided to help you get through some of those emotional things that are blocking you, paralyzing you.
Wow, I love that. I love that. I'm going to actually bring Philip back in because I have a continuation to this discussion, and I got some questions that were sent to me from some of the viewers out there, and I wanted to tackle them, and they really good questions. So I really want to get to them. So I'm going to throw it out there for either one of you can answer this question. But how do you deal with a difficult co-parent, like someone that's like ignoring your messages, they don't agree with you on anything, they're talking bad about you to the kids? Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, for me, like Steve said, understanding the standards that you have for yourself, and where you're sitting, like how you're judging yourself and your own self-worth, has a lot to do with that other person. You can't let that other person be any sort of source for your happiness. You can't let your kids being around be a source for your happiness, finding the happiness within yourself. But as a practical solution is to not bring the fight to them, keeping your approaches with them productive, or at least doing the best that you can to keep them productive when it comes to that person acting out, and don't engage, don't reward their behavior, because then you're just going to keep attracting more of it.
Exactly. I feel like people that do that want to get a rise out of you. And so it's okay to block them and ignore them. No, you don't block them because you need to get your kids. But you can ignore them. If they're not talking about anything that's relevant to the kids, we don't have anything to talk about. And you have to create those boundaries to where they know, okay, she's not or he's not going to respond if it's not about the kids, right? And so I completely agree with you, Philip, on that. What's your take on that, Steve?
Well, the boundaries is absolutely right. I would recommend going through a divorce app and having all your communication done through an app that's easily tracked, and all the conversations are tracked. That way you have a history of it. Setting the boundaries is vital, because as a guy, you have no reason to defend yourself. When you start defending yourself and your actions towards your ex, you're in some ways admitting your own guilt or your unwillingness to look that you might be wrong. It is okay to stay silent. It is okay to say no. It's okay to have your relationship be a no for now, not a no forever. But you have to stand in your power and create the boundaries, because as soon as you start tying in and courting into these engagements, it can ripple to your health. It can ripple to your career focus, your time with your kids. You could have limited time. It's not worth the trade of emotional viability versus having the quality time with your kid. It's not a trade that's worth it. I mentioned the co-parenting coordinator. Sometimes bringing in a third party, and this is a court-approved third party, can help the other party recognize where their perspective may be wrong. Oftentimes, two divorcing partners they don't have this ability to listen and hear each other because they're in this power struggle and they're just poking and triggering each other. So sometimes bringing in a third party is viable. And certainly don't react to text messages. If you feel like you need to respond, take a night and sleep on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. 24-hour rule. Just calm your nerves. Because again, if you didn't work in marriage, it's difficult to work after marriage. It really is. So I read up about the co-parenting app. I think that's a really great idea because not only can you communicate, you can put your calendar when the child needs to be picked up. You can upload documents for their school, social security card, whatever. So it eliminates you having to constantly talk to them about stuff. You just text them back and say, check the app. Everything you need to know, there's an app for it. Okay.
Right.
So let them check the app. And that's a great way. If you're struggling with communication, you can use a co-parenting app. So next question. It's a juicy one, real juicy. And if you guys have questions out there, I want to take live questions too, because I want to hear from you. Obviously, you're tuned in for a reason. Maybe you're not going through a divorce, but you know someone that is. Please, shoot over your questions. What if you're co-parenting with someone that you still have feelings for, or they still have feelings for you? How do you create those proper boundaries so you're not, recording, as you would say, Steve?
Well,
Are they
one thing I think it's
negative feelings?
Say that again, Philip.
Are they though? There's always going to be feelings there, but are they positive feelings or are they negative feelings?
Well, positive feelings. like I want to take the kids out. Like, can I come with you?
Mm-hmm.
What's your
Well,
thought?
first off, if two parents are able to come together and spend quality time with their kids, I know a couple in Vermont, they're divorced, but they're always together with their kids. I think it's a very, very beautiful thing. If you're able to work it out and create these emotional boundaries where you're comfortable with it, it's your boundary, right? Create it something that you're comfortable with. Kids are going to be better suited when everybody's coming together. It's also not uncommon that when, usually a divorce or a separation is triggered because one party wants to leave and the other doesn't. So emotionally, one person is further ahead in the healing and the separation process than the other. So it's very natural to have feelings for that, and time will play out. So it's a process that you adjust. And so if you have a co-parenting plan, most co-parenting plans will suggest that you meet periodically, let's say quarterly, to review what's working, review what's not. If you're able to do that, that's perfect. Make the adjustments.
Yeah. Philip,
Yeah.
you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so that was a little part of my own divorce. I knew that it wasn't right, and I knew that we should be getting divorced, but I wasn't really totally ready to let it go.
Yeah.
And so I still had feelings for my ex for a while after, and it took a long time to get over. But what it did allow for was the ability to actually, I actually wanted to be there, and I actually wanted to be with my child. And, sometimes my ex was there also, and it wasn't always easy to see her, but it still allowed for us to all do stuff together. And, once, and that was a really, really big deal for for our daughter. And even though she was further along in the healing process, like Steve said, it was still, even though it was tough, I eventually just got over it. I was like, okay, I'm spending a lot of energy on someone that it's not really going to work out. And so there was, other ways to get over that, but it did create a good positive relationship for us. We took a trip to California, all of us, and went to Universal Studios, and, took our daughter, and we have a really incredible relationship. And I'm very grateful for it. But the feelings were there for a little while after the separation, even though I knew that it wasn't right. But
yeah, I mean, and I think that's realistic. And I wanted to kind of, first of all, I want to commend you and Steve for being the loving, active fathers that you are. Can we shout out to the fathers out there that are doing their thing? Come on now. Like, we got to celebrate that, because there are some men out there that's not active. And to your point, you have feelings, kind of still have feelings there. So you took more of an active role, but there are some men that really hate their ex-wives and don't have nothing to do with them. And sometimes it causes them to leave everyone, including their child. Why would, outside of that, Philip, I guess I can ask you, what are your thoughts about that? And like, what would you say to that man that maybe is not involved? Because, I'll be honest, I'm in a situation where I do it alone. Like, I don't co-parent because he's not around. So, for me, this is a learning to understand how, how people do co-parent and how that all works out. But what would you say to that man that is not involved, in their child's life?
I say that they're missing out. They're hurting. They're hurting themselves, and I mean, like I said before, they're kind of hurting society as well. But they're ultimately hurting themselves by not being present fathers, because being a father is very, very, very rewarding, and it teaches you a lot about yourself. It teaches you a lot of self-awareness, and it teaches you a lot of personal development tools that you may not get otherwise. And it's been like me being a father has been the number one thing that's helped me grow as a person. And it's been a really, really strong drive for me, not only just for myself, but in my careers, making money, fostering better relationships with my family, better relationships with my partner now. And you're ultimately hurting yourself by not being a dad. So yeah. I don't get it. I don't get why someone would want to step away. I think it probably comes down to a lot of fear. But I can't see why any man would not want to be a present father with their kids.
Yeah.
So, but if you really, really don't want to, like, don't. I mean, if you really, despise the idea of fatherhood, the child's probably better off without you. I honestly, it sounds harsh to say, but you're not doing a child any favors by spending time with them when you don't want to be there.
Yeah. I mean, that's real talk, Philip. I mean, it is what it is. And, that reality is a reality for a lot of kids out here with absentee fathers. And, sometimes they are better off if the father is not wanting to be in their life, or maybe be, for whatever other reasons, probably not healthy to be around them, so I do understand that. And I guess to your point, I guess for the life of me, I can't get into that man's head to understand, like, what reasons, why would you walk away from your child? But regardless of the reasons, I don't think there's ever a legitimate reason to do so. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you. And I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in on that, Steve, because we do have a live question coming in. Did you have anything?
No, I would just say that, there are the fathers that are absent, and then there's the fathers that made a choice or had some circumstance where they were absent, and then they're contemplating whether or not they should re-engage, and maybe fearful that when they come back in the child's life, they may do even more harm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're that latter father, I would say there is a period of time where you should have some level of faith. You shouldn't expect things to work smoothly, but in those challenges, each challenge that you would face in re-engaging with your child is an opportunity for a miracle to occur. So it's not until you go down that path and start embracing it with confidence and commitment will you experience that. But fathers that are absent, they're absent. And I wouldn't know what to say to them.
Yeah. Very emotional topic. I mean, it is impacting a lot of people out there. So thank you for that insight. I hope that it helps someone. And, So like I said, we have a question from the audience, and I believe we answered this question, but for the sake of this viewer, I want to make sure we kind of address it again. But the question is, he's in a situation where his ex is making it very difficult to see the child. Won't, answer the phone, just won't allow him to see the child at all. Now, is there a solution to that? Is that a situation in which there would be maybe some legal assistance that may be needed? What would you suggest, Steve?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You you have a legal right to see your child, and when you signed, when the judge, well, either if you signed a separation agreement and you're not divorced, it's still a court order. It's an agreement that's filed with the court. If your final divorce decree is stamped, it's a court order. You have the right to file a motion and take it back to court. You have the right to request a co-parenting coordinator. Uh, Go through these things. Mediation is also a viable route. Most divorce agreements will require some level of mediation before it goes back to court. And there could be an issue that your ex wants resolved, and you have to meet in common ground. But work at it, because your ex does not hold the permission slip on whether or not you can be engaged in your kid's life.
Well said. I mean, I don't have nothing to add to that. I think that's well said. I hope that answers your question to our viewer. For the sake of privacy, I don't want to say his name, but hopefully that answered your question. So we're going to take a little spin on that question. And let's say the ex-wife or husband is not the issue. It's the stepfathers and the stepmothers. Is there like significant others that's causing problems for you? What advice would you give, and from that perspective, that it's not really the ex, but it's who they're with that's causing tension?
Right. So everybody's going to approach the rules in their household differently. And sometimes one of the divorced parties is going to be with somebody, and then the other party's single. And there can be some adversarial pieces. The way I look at it is, there are 4 adults possibly that could be involved. All of them can bring positive things to support the child's life. But there are also 4 adults that can bring negative things. So when you're working with the adults, it's important to try to create some sort of system. But if you're having issues because of your wife's ex, or your wife's new partner, or she's having issues because of your new partner, you really have to hammer those issues out. But there is a tendency sometimes for the ex to want to try to control and live in the new relationship that, like, for example, I may have. And that's where these boundaries come in. So I don't know if there's one size or one approach that fits. It's a process of creating boundaries. It's a process of communications. It's a process of expectations. And if you cannot co-parent, you're still allowed to parent under your own terms. It's just that co-parenting would be more ideal. But doesn't mean that you can't be effective as a father if you don't fall in line with a co-parenting plan where you both are adhering verbatim to.
I think that's good. Philip, did you want to weigh in on that at all?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're still the child's father, and so there's not going to be anybody who's able to replace that bond. And it was a big challenge. It was a big challenge for me when my ex had her boyfriend move in, and I mean he didn't cause any issues for me. I got to meet him surprisingly. I wasn't expecting to meet him at that moment or spend a whole weekend together, but whole other story. But it was threatening to me based on my own insecurities. And then it just took a little bit of time to reground and remember that it's like, okay, I'm her father, and the bond that her and I have is irreplaceable. And so whatever issues could arise or would come up based on based on whatever problems the ex's new partner is causing. It doesn't really it's not really a reflection of me. It's not a reflection of me as a father. And so it's not something that I spend a whole lot of energy worrying about.
And you said something that made me think about, you kind of came and it's unexpected to you. And some people take that and say, you know what, you should tell me who you're having around my child, right? As a way to sort of, to Steve's point, kind of inject themselves in your business. Is it important that they share who they're with because for the sake of the child? Is that important?
I believe that it is, because it affects my child. And so it's not that it matters who she's seeing or who she's with. I could really, really care less about the caliber of person that she's with. It's her life, it's her deal. But once this person starts stepping into my daughter's life or our daughter's life and starts, becoming a model for her and starts being an influence on her, then it makes a little bit of a difference. And so I wasn't told when they were moving in together. And so I was really upset about that, because she's like, well, it's my life. It's my deal. But I was like, hey, it's still our daughter, who she's spending time with, who she's spending nights under a roof with, someone who's going to be taking care of her and watching her when, you're not around. All these things do kind of involve me. So to me, it's important. And I think it's very, it would be respectful to be transparent in that.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point of view. That's a good point of view. Because I would say it's none of your business. No, I'm just playing. I'm going to say that. I would probably say that, but probably not. But no, I agree with that. Steve,
I see the other side of it. I see the other side of it too. But I think overall, this is a more effective, a better.
Yeah. I think it is important. I think you can never go wrong with communication, and just communicate with all due respect, and just just being respectful overall. I think you can't go wrong with that. And I completely 100% agree with you. And so, Steve, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think Philip's right. There's a level of respect there, and what are your standards and what type of integrity do you want to show? The thing that I think is important to remember is you still have a relationship with your ex. It's just that the relationship is altered. So just like when you came together and you were married, there's a level of trust that was an important player in your relationship. Well, there's also a level of trust and respect that's an important player in the divorced relationship. So you could make the choice to alienate your new partner from your ex, but is that the type of standard you want to have in this new relationship with your spouse, with your ex? And what could be the ramifications that result from you possibly impeding on that new trust level and that new respect level that's very important to have in a successful divorcing relationship?
Yeah, no, I agree. And so I want to do this last little thing. I don't know if we can do it like a rapid fire type situation where you just shoot them out. But do's and don'ts of co-parenting. Let's start with the do's. What's the do's of co-parenting? What is that thing that you want to make sure you do?
Consistency between the households.
Consistency.
Ensuring, when it comes to, I think inclusion of the other parent is a huge do. Sports activities, school activities, birthday parties. If you're able to have birthday parties together, it means the world to the child. It's like, oh, I get to have my mom and my dad here, or even if their partners are around, also they get to be here too. I celebrated my daughter's 6th birthday party this year, and my my girlfriend paid a $800 ticket to go there for a couple days and see her, and my ex's partner or her boyfriend was there, and we all got to be together for their parties. So or for her party. So inclusion of the other parent and all these little activities is really, really big deal for the child. I understand it's not always possible, and but if you can, well, it is possible, but both parents have to be willing to make it so. So if you can, inclusion is a huge thing.
And my producer is saying, you got 3 minutes, so don't compare. What don't you do?
You don't, through your actions, teach your kids to disrespect the other parent. So you don't disrespect the other parent through your actions, and thereby teach your kids to disrespect the other parent.
Love it. Don't.
Beautifully. Speaking negatively about the other parent, putting the children in the middle of your issues. Putting the child like, I was trying to give an example. I drew a blank on the example, but don't blame the child for anything, and make sure that they know that they're loved, and don't not include the parent in issues in activities as well. But putting children in the middle of your relationship issues and telling them about wrongdoings of the other parent.
I agree with that. And even like, don't send messages through your child to your
right.
Like, we're adults.
Well, there's a ton of don'ts.
Don't be narcissistic. Don't keep your child away from their parent. Don't do that. Don't do that. So there's so many do's and don'ts that we could cover today, but we're running out of time. This was so good, guys. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chidima.
You're so welcome. I appreciate having you both. I'm sure they got a lot of value out of this. But before you go, I do want to make sure they know how to keep in touch with you. So we'll start with you, Philip. How can the viewers keep in touch with you? Tell us more about Level Up and what they can do to connect with you.
Well, the easiest way, I'm tagged in this stream on both Instagram and Facebook. So you can reach out to me through private message on either Instagram or Facebook. My email is philipturner at levelupmentoring.com, but Level Up is LVL, so LVL up mentoring.com, and I'm always checking that as well.
So tell me a little bit, I think you told me a story about how you came up with the name Level Up. So Level Up is a mentoring program for men going through divorce, just for those that are just tuning in. So tell me how you came up with that name.
Well, I'm a big fan of video games, and in the games that I like to play, as your character overcomes, takes down more enemies, overcomes obstacles, they gain more experience. And so when they complete tasks, they gain more experience. And as you gain more experience, you increase your level, you level up. And when you level up, you become stronger, you become more resilient, you become faster, you're able to take on more challenges and do more things in the game. So just like in the game, I want to help men level up and increase their strength and their effectiveness in life.
I love that. So you playing video games and getting your life together. I love it.
Oh yeah.
So Philip Turner is a divorce coach. So please reach out to Philip. That's LVL up UP Level Up Mentoring to contact Philip. Steve, how can people stay connected to you? You're also a certified divorce coach with U-Tree Coaching.
Right.
Like YOU, right? Tree. Tell us how we can stay in touch.
Same thing. You can connect with me through Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn. The website is U-Tree Coaching, YOUTREE coaching.com. Just contact me there and set up a free consultation.
I love it. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. I wanted to give you a little insight about our panel for part 3. So I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys. Part 3 is coming up, and we're gonna talk about healing from divorce and spirituality. Woo! We're gonna get into some things. And how does the view of the church, how does the church view divorce? And how do you overcome some of that, some of the judgment that you may have experienced because you went through a divorce? We have some pastors and different guys that will be joining us next week that's going to weigh in on that. can you really get remarried after divorce? We're going to find out. This is going to be September 24th. I'm so excited to have our panelists join us then. But before we go, I did want to say this, because at the end of the day, I am just a vessel creating this platform so men can heal. I am a divorce coach. I typically coach women through their process of healing from divorce, but the Lord really laid it on my heart to include men as well, because he loves all his children. And so if you're a man that has been going through a divorce, and you're going through the pain, you're going through the disappointment, you're doing the unhealthy behaviors like Philip mentioned, because you don't know how to cope, I want you to know that you have a Heavenly Father that's ready to embrace you. Because at the end of the day, everything we talked about will definitely help you. But there's something about tapping into your Father and saying, hey, can you help me dig deeper and heal that hurt that nobody can touch? And he will. And that's how I was able to heal, is through my faith in God. And so I just wanted to send that prayer out to you, that I'm doing this because God loves you. He put it on my heart for you. And I pray that this has helped you in a way that has caused you to reset your life, reset your thinking, and really step out and apply the tools that we talked about today. So tune in for part 3. Please share this with a friend or anyone that you know will benefit, and more to come. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you soon.